Chapter 47 Sia speaks. Good night, Sia Didi, Suhana said. Good night, my little baby Suhana. Love you, I said. Suhana smiled. She loved it when I called her a little baby, like when he was a toddle. I shut my eyes and tried to sleep. I couldn't. I kept thinking of Aryan. Last week he liked and commented on all of Parvati's posts. She had done the same for his pictures too. Is something going on between them? Doesn't Parvati knows Aryan is my crush? She is my best friend. She should leave him alone. Did she offer to kiss him or what? I would never do that. It's not right at our age. Parvati says she is my best friend, but always wants what I want. Why isn't sleeping coming? Hope mommy and dad are okay and don't fight again. Mommy agreed to spend this weekend at Dadu Dadi's house, but it always leads to some argument. I tossed and turned in bed. My mind went to Roy. I need to stop chatting with him. He is not a good guy. I finally felt drowsy and drifted off to sleep. Wake up, Utho. I heard a voice. Someone shook my shoulder. A man, not dad. Is it Timmy uncle? Dadu? No, it's different voice. I said. I felt sharp, cold metal on my neck. It's a huge knife. He pressed it harder and it hurt a little. Is this bad dream? No, I can see Suhana lying next to me. My eyes are open. There's someone in the room. Shh, ekdam chup. Stay absolutely quiet or I will kill you and all these children, he said. I want to scream but my throat won't cooperate. I can't speak. He will kill me. He will kill Suhana, Rohit and Sanjay too. Who is he? A robber? He's come to rob Dadu Dadi's house? Come with me quietly, chalo, he said. Where does he want me to go? My legs began to tremble. He pressed the knife harder into my neck. No sound. I will push this knife deep inside you and your little sister. Suhana moved a little in her sleep. I don't know what to do. He could finish us all in a minute. What does he want? Be quiet and come with me. Nothing will happen. I won't hurt you, he said. I have heard his voice before. Who is he? I try to make out his face in the darkness. I can't. We came out of the room and walked down the steps. Everyone is asleep. All of the bedroom doors are shut. He made me walk out of the living room and through the front door. We came out into the garden. It was dark and quiet outside. He kept me in front of him, knife at my back. We reached the side gate. It's unlocked. He pushed the side gate open and we came out in the street. He took me to the lane behind Navratna house. He poked the knife in my back, nudging me forward. We reached a large car. He gestured to me to step inside. He made me sit in the back seat and handed me a quilt. Where are you taking me? I spoke finally. Shh, he said, showing me the knife. Cover yourself completely with the quilt. And no sound, he said again. He sat in the driver's seat. The dim streetlight hid his face. Pandiji? I said. He turned around and slapped me hard across my face. I said no sound. My people are still inside your house. If you make a sound or do any tricks, they will kill your entire family. Fear gripped me. My body froze. I couldn't scream even if I wanted to. He pulled the quilt over my face and told me to keep my eyes shut. I compiled. The car began to move. We kept driving for an hour. I didn't think about what was happening to me. My only thought was that Suhana and my cousins would not be safe. 2 days missing. Eat, he said. He pushed a plate with roti and dal in front of me. I want to go home, I said. This is your home now. This is hell. Take off these chains, please, I beg you, I said and cried. I sat on the folding bed with several old quilts. I looked around the dark windowless room. A tiny ventilation slit near the ceiling let a bit of light in, telling me it was daytime outside. 2 light bulbs tried hard to keep this basement room illuminated. Stacks of sugarcane lay in one corner. Dirty rugs covered the muddy floor. He had tied me up with long steel chains, hooked up to the ceiling. The chain length just about allowed me to reach the toilet and the water tap. He sat next to me on the folding bed. Look, crying won't help, he said in a sympathetic voice, as if he was on my side. I don't like it when you cry, and please eat, otherwise, you will feel worse. Why have you brought me here? You don't understand. This is God's will. God instructed me. You see, I had a dream. You are to be my wife. That's my destiny. Destiny? I said in the faint voice. Of course, I helped your mother get married to your father so you could come into this world. If I wasn't there, who knows? They would have aborted you. Aborted? He ignored me and continued. I also did the Vastu of Navratna house, so I knew about the side entrance and the location of the key rack. It was God helping me. I came so often to Navratna house. I could take the side gate key during one visit, make a duplicate and hang it back on another visit. If all this is not destiny, then what else it is? Are you crazy? No, I am in touch with God. 4 days later, it an auspicious day. That's when we will get married. Married? I won't touch you until then, he said. Please just take me back home. Ever since I saw your mother and placed my hand on her head, I felt something. But she was meant for Manishji. I kept wondering what it was that made me feel that way. That desire a priest is not supposed to feel. Later I realized it was you. You were inside her then and grew up to be just like your mother. I cried, but I could not shut out his words. They entered my ears smoothly like acid. I wondered what would be the right moment to take you. And then I saw the picture of your dance performance in school. You were Menka. I was the Rishi. Menka came to break Vishwamit's meditation. You came to break mine. You were dancing for me. No, I said and shook my head violently. It's okay, you won't realize all that, but this is what I have been instructed to do. By whom? By God. I am 12. Do you know how old Mahatma Gandhi was when he got married? 13. What? He stepped off the bed. He walked up to the sink. He pointed to a cardboard box kept on the counter. There's soup, toothpaste, shampoo, everything you need. I even brought some clothes. I will get you wedding dress later. Panditji, you have kidnapped me? Take me home. My Dadu and Dadi will catch you. Panditji smiled. Nobody can find you here. Anyway, your grandmother doesn't like you. They won't look for you. But I will care for you. Provide for you. That's why I am telling you to eat. Don't make trouble. The police will find you. Not here. See, if you trouble me, I will have to kill you and bury you right here. Nobody will know. He walked up to the mesh door. Where are you going? I said. I have work. As your husband, I have to go earn a living for both of us, right? I will be back tomorrow. Please take off these chains. I will, when you behave yourself. Eat, shower, and take care of yourself. My grandparents hold you in such high regard. I hold them in very high regard too, he said as he left. I heard the sound of 2 doors being shut and 4 locks being locked. The basement fell silent. After he left, I cried alone for another hour. I realized that if I ever wanted to get out of her life, I have to survive. I pulled the plate with the rotis and dal towards me. 6 days missing. Wear it, he said. He thrust a red lehenga at me. I shook my head and instinctively ducked as he raised his hand. Don't make me slap you. I shook my head again. He grabbed my hair and tugged at it hard. I know how to tame you, you cat-eyed kamini, he said. He took out his switchblade knife and flipped it open. Okay, fine, I will wear it, I said. Good, he said as he unchained me. And this is for your good behavior. No more chains from now on. See, I am a good man. I dragged myself out of bed and went to a corner of a room with the lehenga. Can you look away? I said. I am going to be your husband soon. He laughed and turned around. I changed into the garish red outfit. Beautiful, he said. Your eyes have done magic on me. They attracted me for years. I knew there was something. That's why I had that dream to make you my wife. He made me sit on the floor after lighting a small fire in a small iron utensil. He began to recite some mantras. He pulled me up by my hand and made me take several rounds around the fire with him. Smoke choked the entire basement as the ventilation slit could not get rid of it fast enough. I coughed non-stop. After the ceremony, he made me sit on the bed again. You and I are now husband and wife. No, I said. We are not. He slapped me. As a wife, you are not to answer me back. My ear was hurting from the blow. It's time now to do your wifely duties, he said. I gave him a blank look. Take off your clothes. His eyes told me what was about to happen. No, please, no, I beg you, I said. This is wrong. He grabbed my shoulder. I have married you. You are with your husband. How is it wrong? The next hour of my life is an hour I would rather forget, or at least I try to. For those 6 minutes, I ceased to be. I became numb to whatever was happening, to the fear, to the intense pain. I contemplated taking his knife and killing myself. But would my parents be looking for me? Won't Suhana be missing me? Should I live for a few more days so they find me? I'm leaving. I'll be back tomorrow, I heard him say through the door as he locked it from the outside. 30 days missing. He caught me trying to escape today. He beat me up with a stick. My legs hurt from being chained. I can't move. I can't reach the tap for water. I can't even get to the toilet. No food or water for 2 days. That is my punishment for trying to escape. I had figured out a way to reach the ventilator. I made the folding bed stand upright. I brought it near the wall. I climbed up on the upright bed to reach the ventilator. I couldn't get out through the 6-inch gap through, but I could see outside. I saw a muddy ground and a boundary wall with field beyond it. I also saw sugarcane stacks and piles of gunny bags. By now I knew Shastri's routine. He only came at night. In the daytime, I could reach the ventilator and scream out loud. Maybe someone would hear me. Help me, I am trapped. I shouted into the ventilator slit for several hours every day. Nobody heard me, but I didn't give up. Every afternoon I shouted for help till my throat gave up. However, he came in the daytime today. He heard me scream for help. He saw me precariously balanced on the upright bed. You asked to be punished, he said, bringing the stick. The chain were back, this time fastening me tighter to the bed. I didn't say a word. I didn't cry through his beating or whatever else he did to me. I have to survive. 67 days missing. Come here, he said. I began to remove my clothes. I knew the ritual well. The sooner it began, the sooner it ended, and the sooner he left. Living a solitary life seemed infinitely better than having him around. No, not for that, he said. He sat next to me, flicked open his switchblade knife and cut a lock of my hair. This is for your parents. They just won't stop looking for you. Hope lit up inside me. Where is the dress you had on that night? I brought you here, he said. In that cardboard box. Why? He took out my night suit from the box and put it in a plastic bag. Next, he poked the knife into my forearm. Blood spurted out. Why? I didn't misbehave today, I cried. He took my soiled night suit and rubbed it on the flesh blood. You didn't. I just need them to think you are dead, so they stop looking for you forever, he said before he left. I fainted, alone with blood. I had also lost any last bit of hope. 395 days missing. Here, special food today, he said. He had brought a 4-tire steel tiffin with him. He spread an old newspaper on the bed. He took out puris, aloo sabji, halwa, and an assortment of mithai from the tiffin. I ate the food in silence. He walked around the basement and turned to me. "You never say thanks," he said. "For?" I said. "I do so much for you. Give you food, shelter, clothes. You should be grateful." "Thank you," I said. I didn't want a slap while I ate. "Welcome. How is the food?" "Nice," I said, trying to keep my voice friendly. "It's from your grandparents' house." I looked at him in confusion. "I conducted a puja there today. The food is from your house." I felt nauseous. I didn't feel like eating anymore. Why did he do this to me? Does he enjoy seeing me in pain? "The puja was for you," he said. "It's your birthday today. Happy birthday." Sadness ambushed me as tears streamed down my eyes. I didn't even know how long I had been here. He had kidnapped me a month before my birthday. I had spent an infinite amount of time here since then. How old was I? 13? 14? I remembered the last birthday I had celebrated. We had a party with all my classmates at the Icon Club house. "Why are you crying so much?" he said. I tried to gulp down my tears. I didn't want to be beaten up on my birthday. "Eat," he said. I nodded. "What gift can I get you for your birthday?" he said. I looked up at him. "Can I step outside?" I said. I had liked to see the sky above me. "That will never happen. Your entire life is now here forever. Anything else?" I kept quiet. "Tell me, my pretty little wife, could you get me some notepads and pens?"